Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are so excited to have our guest here joining us live on the podcast and on the Zoomcast. It's Amy Vander, and so excited to have her here. She's a pelvic PT, and her passion, of course, is helping women have better sex. We're excited to talk to her here. And again, she's the CEO and therapist of her own company based out of Arizona. Want to point out the website, momentofTruthpt.com. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Jill. It's been a really fun week.
Oh, tell us why. What have you been up to?
Well, right now I'm the only therapist. I have a new therapist starting in January. So I normally only treat 2 days a week, but I've been treating 4 days this week, and it's
Great. So you're having a great week, helping so many people, I'm sure. I know we're going to talk some misconceptions today that contribute to women not having great sex, how you can help with us and help those out there suffering. But there's so much to talk about. So let's first and foremost, we got to tell a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, of course. So my area of expertise is pelvic physical therapy. And so there's definitely tons of misconceptions, and myth busting is one of my all-time favorite things to do. And so I think we kind of have to back up to women knowing their own bodies and knowing their own anatomy, and without getting too in the weeds on all the layers of, society, religion, the patriarchy, whatever you want to attribute it to. I find that for the most part, women don't even know our own anatomy. I think we touched on this a little bit in our last episode, but back in school, when we learned that boys have a penis, we're taught girls have a vagina. And if we were being truly anatomically correct, it would be that boys have a penis and that girls have a clitoris. Those are the corresponding sexual organs. And so they actually have a lot more similarities than differences, and a lot more similarities than we're led to believe or learn about. And so it's just that a male's is far more visible and external, and ours is far more internal. And so there's just a lot more to our sexuality and our orgasms than we know about. And a vast majority of women only orgasm through clitoral stimulation, sometimes in correspondence with penetration, but not a ton of women, somewhere around the 30% range, orgasm from actual penetrative sex alone.
God, and I think a lot of men don't understand that, to be honest with you, at least in my own experience, because I orgasm that way too, externally more than the inside way. So yes, for sure. And I feel like I don't think men understand that. I wish they would teach men that in sexual education and health class.
Well, because most men, 100%, if they knew better, they would be so eager to do better.
Of course.
Most men, for sure. Yeah, none of us are taught about it, but I think men assume women know their own bodies, and that's not true. And there's a lot of societal and sometimes religious and different cultural things where that area is a no-no, and it's your privates. If you think about the language we grow up with around that, those are our privates. That's just for us. And even our periods and bleeding, that's considered dirty. In far more ancient cultures, women went away for their time of bleeding and menstruation, partially dirty, partially, some cultures it was actually viewed in a more sacred manner. But either way, it was something that separated us and was considered unclean. So I just think that there's so much shame that can easily come with that area, that, we do a workshop for moms and daughters just to help more that 12 to 16-year-old range. A, learn their own anatomy. B, understand our menstrual cycle a lot more so that we understand our own fluids and our own discharge, and that we're not disgusting, and that that's normal, and what a normal cycle should be, so that they know if heaviness or the cramping is really excessive and not something that's typical or what might be treatable. So yeah, it kind of starts there.
Got it. Well, thank you. I love this. By the way, we're here discussing some of the common misconceptions that contribute to us women not having great sex. And of course, our expert here is helping us and teaching us ways that we could do better just by knowing better. So she's educating us. And Amy Vander, just remind us how we can reach you, website, phone number, social media before we continue.
I think the best place to take advantage of all the educational resources we have would be the website, momentoftruthpt.com. But we also have a Moment of Truth Physical Therapy YouTube channel,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
where there's a lot of content available. And I do have a sex webinar coming out that's going to be available soon. And so I am just very passionate about, I see so many women postpartum and even later in life
Ah,
through and past menopause. And I don't meet a lot of women who are having great sex, and it breaks my heart. And it's totally possible for any of us. And there's obviously a lot more deeper factors with getting out of our own way of learning to receive. That's not something most females are taught or programmed with or really excel at. And that's a huge piece of having better sex. So it's knowing our anatomy, it's helping our partners know our anatomy, and it's also just knowing ourselves better. But it leads to so much more healing too on a deeper level, not even just the better sex.
oh, got it. Wow. Well, this is fascinating. And also we have to break down the barriers of being okay to talk about this. We talked about that too, that the stigma of we shouldn't be talking about sex. And I just hope that's changing over time. I told you with my boys, I'm honest with them about everything and I'm teaching them. They know about my menstrual cycle. They're 6 and 8, but these are the things we have to start, I think, communicating with our children. And I know we're going to discuss mental load communication, learning to receive and all that as well for today. But I just think that's very important. And to be open and honest with what you want, what you need.
Yeah, and I think even when women get together, I spend my day talking about pee and poop and sex, but I know that's not the norm for most people. And so, yeah, I think just even with our besties, we don't necessarily go there, right? And then there's all the stigmas of like, well, are you keeping your man happy? And how's your
Mm-hmm.
relationship? And, we're expectations of having a great marriage and being all the things. And so, that plays into it. But yeah, the communication, I won't lie, it's, having to say to someone,
Yeah.
I don't like that. I do like this. And I mean, gosh, you want to talk about stigmas? How are
Mm-hmm.
we supposed to know our own bodies without some component
Yeah.
of self-exploration? And
Mm-hmm.
masturbation is not often thought of as a healthy thing. It's often shamed for both men and women. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think sometimes men get
Yep.
away with the whole boys will be boys sort of
Mm-hmm.
dismissal, but how on earth would you be able to tell a hairstylist what you want or what you like if you don't even know what it's like to do your own hair? You don't even know what you
True.
think makes you look good, and it's not really any different. And so just helping women understand, like,
Very
listen,
true. Yep.
we don't want to substitute self-pleasure for connection with your partner, right? Like that could go
Yep.
down a dangerous road, just like other addictions or porn or
Of
different
course.
things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we don't want it to be a substitute, but in terms of knowing your own body and knowing how to communicate to them the areas that bring you pleasure, the things that you enjoy. And I think it's important for women too. And this is only going to happen as you explore and enjoy that it changes throughout our cycle. And I remember when I communicated that to my husband, I was like, do all your orgasms basically feel the same? And he's like, yeah. And I don't see as many male clients as I do females. So I've only
Okay.
had the chance to ask another
Yeah.
probably 10 to 20 men, but they've all said, yeah. And women's orgasms all over the map of how they
Yeah.
feel and how fast they rocket ship and how they linger and if we can have a double or all of those factors often feel different at any given time. And what feels great changes throughout our cycle. The sensitivity of the clitoral tissue and our breast tissue, as you know, changes throughout our cycle. And that affects what techniques, what pressures are going to feel good. And how on earth communicating about that's already a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then to communicate it about to someone else to have them change their performance, that's a lot. And if you don't even know what you like, how do you even start?
Yeah, that is so true. Interesting. Now, also with the work you're doing, you're working with women one-on-one just like this, right? You can Zoom. But where are you based out of again?
Phoenix. We're just on the West Valley of the Phoenix Valley in Arizona.
And you're doing a lot of this work, obviously, virtually, which I think is great because a lot of people feel a little more comfortable, I think, talking about this. But there's also some common pelvic dysfunctions that you wanted
Yep.
to mention as well.
Absolutely. And so just to clarify too, I'm happy to do a Zoom consult on these issues, but we actually treat primarily in person because we're also addressing pain and underlying pelvic or physical dysfunction. So we do a lot of manual therapy in our space. But yeah, I mean, obviously these issues are already a bit complex. If you combine that with any kind of pain, or if women have prolapse, which is where
Yeah.
either the uterus or the bladder or even the rectal tissue or even the walls of the vagina themselves can be
Mm-hmm.
shifted downward or interfere with intercourse. And so then you've got that layer of women feeling a funky pressure, maybe discomfort or pain, or also just feeling very insecure about how their body is doing and if they're going to further damage those tissues or if it's going to be gross to their partner.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing when you add like incontinence, which is like leaking pee, or sometimes after pregnancy, it can be really common to maybe not have as much control over
Yep.
gas. And
Guilty.
all of those things make women feel a lot less confident in the bedroom. And that makes us feel less sexy, which tanks an already floundering libido.
I absolutely look, I had prolapse with both my pregnancies. I don't know if we discussed this, but
A
I
little, you mentioned it last time,
didn't even know. Like, I'm like,
right?
what is this? I had to call the doctor. Like, no one even talked about it. And like the first timers, having the baby, you go to the Lamaze classes, you get all the information, you read the book, what to expect when expecting. I don't remember ever seeing anything about, hey, all of a sudden there could be something hanging out of you that looks like a squirrel. And guess what? That's your cervix. Oh gosh, that's your uterus. I'm like, what? Yeah, I had to send pictures to my girlfriend who's a PA, her and her husband. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm like, what? And then call my doctor. And then panicking, that's
Yes.
one of the things I was not prepared for. And then the few months of recovery to fix all that. I mean, but little did I know I should be doing certain exercises before that could have helped with that. So it's, and then after that, do I feel like wanting to ever have sex again? Do I feel unattractive? Do I feel embarrassed? No. And the gynecologist, I'll never forget this. He told me, men doesn't know anything because he's like, everything's prolapse and low. Man doesn't know anything. Don't worry about it. I'm like, but I'm the one who's insecure. I feel like he's going to know or see or feel it. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, and it is sad because in Europe, postpartum pelvic physical therapy is standard practice. And if you have a C-section, there's even more visits. And so they have a much healthier process and culture around pelvic floor therapy and recovery from however your delivery goes. And so here, I think prolapse is such a scary word. And I think most of the marketing is that surgery is your only option. And so women, I think, are left feeling very stuck, not wanting surgery, but not knowing what else there is to do. And thankfully, there is a lot you can do between doing nothing and then surgery. There's even pessaries and some other options. But yeah, I would love to work with women before pregnancy and delivery so that they are far more prepared for all the possible scenarios and don't have so much insecurity and discomfort and all of the other things that lead to the suffering and the shame and just make all the other pieces more complicated.
Ugh. And you just mentioned discomfort. That's one of the things I'm sure you deal with a lot of people. One in particular, I just want to ask a question if you don't mind. Vaginal dryness.
Yeah.
Um, I suffer with it. I'm assuming other people do. Makes sex painful, makes it
Yeah.
uncomfortable. What,
And a
what,
lot of women just grin and bear it, especially if this scenario happens a lot. And actually, I had related to it myself. You start out and you're okay. You have some lubrication and it's okay. But then you dry up really quick, and women don't want to stop. They just want to kind of grin and bear it, let their partner get done.
sorry.
That
Ah,
leads to micro tears and more pain, which
yes.
then makes you not want to do it next time. And it just kind of snowballs this negative thing. I think one of my very first blog posts, well, my very first one, I titled "You Put Your Hand Where?" because nobody really understood what I did. But one of the early ones was just do it. And I was talking about the use of lube. And I think too, this is how distorted our thinking is, right? Like women
Yeah.
think that lube only helps us and will be worse for our partners. So some women don't
Hmm.
want to do it for that reason. And I'm like, no, no, no. Good slide and glide is better for
Mhm.
everybody. It's more pleasurable for him and for you. And I make sure to point that out because then women are more willing to do it. We have an aloe-based lube we use at the office. I tell women they can also just use coconut oil. I love the brand Good Clean Love. It's
I'm going to
90.
write this one down. Hold
Yeah,
on.
and it's on Amazon like everything under the world.
Okay.
But Good Clean Love is 95% organic, very few ingredients, aloe based. And the nice thing about aloe too is it's somewhat healing and it's the consistency kind of stays put a bit longer. Like
Got
coconut oil
it.
is amazing, but it's running everywhere in milliseconds.
And that would probably stain sheets and all.
Yeah.
Um,
Coconut oil.
what's the ones we should avoid? Because that's also another issue too. Like what types of, you say, wait, I get confused. Water-based and
There's
oil-based?
aloe based, and I
Aloe-based.
think there's some silicone based. And it's not so much that the base is wrong, it's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them have some alcohol in them that can sting. I'm we don't need to get into this, but I don't understand the market for a lot of flavored lubes. That's kind of a separate topic. We don't need to go there.
Okay.
But yeah, aloe based, mostly organic. That Good Clean Love is, I think, barely $10 on
Okay.
Amazon, even being organic. And so it'll last a good long time.
Okay.
Um, so it's just avoiding, again, you don't want, just like you don't want to eat them, you don't want to put them inside a very absorbable area. Things that are going to alter your pH, artificial colors, artificial flavors,
Mm-hmm.
artificial like preservatives and stuff. We want to kind of avoid that. The parabens, same thing that's like getting known about with shampoos and lotions and things like that. Wouldn't want to be putting those inside the body either. But lube is great for both partners. And I just recommend when in doubt, just use some because it's not worth the discomfort. It's not worth
Mm.
the micro tears. It's not worth the inflammation. It's very common. There's a specific part of our cycle that even if you have great lubrication and all your hormones are amazing and you don't have any pelvic floor issues,
Mm-hmm.
you will have a dry phase of your cycle that lasts usually 2 to 4 days
Got it.
every month, regardless.
And
Then, of
yeah.
course, add any hormonal shifts after pregnancies or with aging and perimenopause. Dryness is sometimes scientifically unavoidable. Sometimes hormone supplementation can help. Sometimes a
Mm-hmm.
local hormone like an estrogen cream can be very beneficial to your overall tissue health, but sometimes you just need lube. And so I tell women, when in doubt,
Basic.
add a
Thank
little
you.
in there before you even start, and then you don't have to worry about the
Got it.
pain.
Because it could be embarrassing to also bring up, depending on if you were with a partner for a long time or not, that, hey, I
Right,
have a problem. It's
right.
start before. But hold on, let me ask you this. Oh gosh, I just lost my train of thought about lube, about um, uh, um, 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 I forgot. It'll come up again.
Yeah. Well, if you tell a partner, hey, sex is way better for me if I use a little lube, again, there's no partner, especially males, that's going to be like, nah, I don't want you to.
Mm-hmm.
What? They're going to be like, yeah, do what you need to do.
Got it. Got it. Oh, you said something that triggered something, and then I forgot. Oh, it was my mom's. My mom, unfortunately, she passed. My mom's cousin's in her 60s, and a few years ago, she did this vaginal rejuvenation thing,
Yeah,
supposed to
go
help with
on.
wetness or whatever. I don't know what that is, or if that's something you know of, recommend, or any
I know
comments
of
on it.
it. It's still semi-new. It's pretty pricey. The process itself can be painful. There's like, I mean, women are doing all kinds of things to our bodies to look better and whatever, but it's a microneedling process to help stimulate more natural lubrication, collagen, better tissue elasticity.
Inside the vaginal canal or on the clitoris. Like I'm thinking, like, I gotta get
Labia and internal. Labia
like.
and vaginal canal.
Oh my gosh, I get that on my face sometimes. That might, ow, 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 that might hurt. Okay. And then I heard about stem cell therapy treatment helping women in that
I've
area,
not worked with any clients that have had that done down there.
but you need a
So,
needle in that area. My friend's a doctor and mentioned that he does that, and I'm like, ow.
yeah, I'm not signing up right now.
Okay, okay, all
I
right.
don't know what stage I'd have to be at to be desperate enough for
I
that,
know.
but I don't like needles at all, so I don't even do dry needling, which is very common amongst PTs, but I don't do it.
All right. Well, what else did you want to share? I'm sorry. We still
Oh
got
no,
5 minutes
that's
left of the
all
show.
great stuff. Like
No,
the
this has been a
aging
great.
piece.
Hmm.
Yeah, the hormone piece, the aging piece, it all fits in. I think it's almost like even any self-help or personal development, right? Like if you
Hmm.
don't even know there's more possible, why would you go for it? Why would you dream about it? Why would you expect it? And so I just want women to know that you absolutely can and should know your own anatomy. There's a lot more things that can bring clitoral pleasure and internal pleasure. The legs of the crura run underneath, kind of under the labia behind like the sides of the pubic bone in our saddle region. And so like sometimes pressure, that's why sometimes pressure there feels good. Or sometimes when women are on top, you can access that part of the clitoris in addition to the actual more of the nub that we know of outside the body, above the vaginal opening. But I think women, first of all, just knowing that 60% or more of women need clitoral stimulation to orgasm, I think is hopefully informative and a big relief to a lot of women who feel broken or don't necessarily enjoy vaginal penetration. I think that lube is a really important helper, and just learning in the workshop, we talk a lot about your accelerator and brakes, which is an
Hmm.
amazing book. Come As You Are is an amazing book by Emily Nagoski. She's a sex therapist,
Okay.
not a pelvic therapist, but she's a sex therapist. And she talks
And
about how we all have accelerators and we all have brakes. And I think for women, knowing what hits our brakes, and that's where the mental load comes in, because a lot of it is
yep.
all the to-do list, it's the being tired, it's the lunches for the next day, it's the laundry, it's the giant to-do list, and those things are hitting our brakes. And when we can break it down, it just makes those conversations between partners easier too, because now you're just both sharing, hey, what are my accelerators, what are my brakes? And it's not this awkward, I don't enjoy sex with you conversation. It's just a healthy, almost like when you go to counseling and a counselor asks a question, it's like an objective party sort of just saying, hey, what about this? And then it's much more easy to have that conversation
Yep.
than kind of awkwardly bring things up on your own and not even really knowing what to say.
Got it. Well, thank you for being here, for joining us. Amy, would you mind sharing the best form, all forms of contact, how we can reach you?
Yep, the website, momentoftruthpt.com. My email is just Amy, AMY, at momentoftruthpt.com. And again, lots and lots and lots of educational resources on our YouTube channel, Moment of Truth Physical Therapy. We're on Facebook and Instagram, same thing, Moment of Truth Physical Therapy. I think Instagram's just Moment of Truth PT. We were trying to shorten it up.
Well, it's been great talking to you as always. Great conversation, learning a lot. And I hope our ladies are listening. And I know you're in Arizona, but you can work with anyone, anywhere, right?
Yeah, we can absolutely set up a
Perfect.
consult for specific questions.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Amy. Have a fantastic day. And to all of
You
our
too,
listeners and
Jill.
viewers, stay tuned. Thank you. Are we back next week?
Yeah,
All
we
right.
are back next week, so we don't even have to say Merry Christmas yet. We still have
Okay,
time.
good, 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 good. Well, almost Merry Christmas in case.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.